Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
So check it out. The D6 Squad has merch now. We got hoodies, tees, mugs, whatever you need. Check it out. Link in the description. Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. So I wanted to do a video predicting the entire playoffs. I might come out with individual videos, for individual games for the playoffs. But I wanted to look at this NFL 2020 playoff bracket. We got a lot of good games for wild card weekend. I think that some upsets will happen that maybe you guys don't agree with, but these are my opinions. This is what I believe is going to happen. This isn't even necessarily what I want to happen. Maybe, but this is just what I think will happen. So let's get into this first game. I'm going to start on the side of the AFC. You got the Browns and the Steelers. Now the Browns and the Steelers, this looked like it might be able to be a game that, the Steelers are on a losing streak. They've been playing really, really bad football. Earlier on in the season, their defense was so dominant, and they were able to kind of get by with their receivers making plays like Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, even the tight end sometimes, Eric Ebron making plays. Big Ben was efficient. He was putting the ball where it needed to be. But after a while, this team has started to regress. Their offense has been an issue for this whole second half of the season. They lost key pieces like Devin Bush, even though they lost him really early in the season. They lost Bud Dupree. And really, when you look at this point, they're not playing the same football that they were playing when they were undefeated. And they're a completely different team. The Browns, they've been playing good football for most of the second half of the season and pretty much all year. They've been a really underrated team. But the Browns have gotten hit hard with everyone's favorite 2020, mess. They've gotten hit hard with it, and you're going to have some players out. You're going to have the coach out. And at this point, there's no way that they're going to be able to win this game with that many pieces missing. If they do, that'll be a miracle. But for now, I'm going to say that the Steelers will come out on top in that division. It's not necessarily a division game. It is, but in this wild card weekend, the Steelers will beat the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are hurt entirely too much. This could have been a much better playoffs. Made it a lot more interesting if this didn't happen, but it did, and you got to deal with it and move on. I feel bad for Browns fans. And then when you look at your second wild card game, you've got the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Buffalo Bills. And the Colts have proved me wrong all year. In any kind of video I've done predicting a win or predicting a loss with the Colts in the game, I always predicted them to lose. You have their running back coming off of a 250-plus yard game. I mean, Phillip Rivers has outplayed what I thought he would do this year. He's been efficient somewhat. He's had a couple of games where he's, turned the ball over. But for the most part, he's protected the ball. He's distributed it well. And the Colts have a decent defense, too. They got a great offensive line anchored by Quentin Nelson. That's my favorite offensive lineman in the league. Best offensive lineman I've ever scouted by far. But these two teams are playing really good football. And when you have two teams that I say are really playing great, I'm just going to lean with whoever has the better quarterback, and Josh Allen, Mr. December. He just won defensive offensive player of the month for December. And this is a guy who was in the MVP race at the start, and now he's finishing out December this strong to where he kind of crept himself back into the MVP race. It was between Rodgers and Mahomes, and him and Derrick Henry over these last couple of games kind of crept their way into that race. It'll be interesting. I think Aaron Rodgers still gets it. But Josh Allen is playing outstanding football. They gave him Stephon Diggs, and he took his entire game to the next level. So he's exciting to watch. He gets it done. 46 total touchdowns this year. And I think that'll be enough to come out with the win over the Indianapolis Colts. And he'll be playing the Steelers in the divisional round. So we only have one team that gets a bye this year in each conference, and that's going to be the Chiefs in the AFC. Uh, the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans are going to play Wild Card Weekend. Man, listen, I really like Lamar Jackson, and I really like the Ravens as a team. Um, I'm from the DMV, the DC, Maryland, all of that stuff. I live closer to the Ravens than I do most NFL teams besides Washington. So, I mean, I kind of have a soft spot for them because they're not a division rival. And the Ravens, I like the Ravens. But the Tennessee Titans are coming in playing great football. And now the Ravens are dominant against the run. And it's going to be interesting to see what Derrick Henry can do against the Ravens. Also, you have to worry about Ryan Tannehill taking off and running with it. And you got to worry about him throwing it to A.J. Brown, throwing it to Corey Davis. There's a lot of ways that Tennessee can beat you if they're on. If they're on, they're like borderline top 2-3 teams in the entire NFL. If they're not on, they can be horrible. They can be blown out. It's up and down with this team. But what I will say is, I think Derrick Henry deserves the MVP this year. I don't think he'll get it, but I think he deserves it. And I think Derrick Henry is going to set the tone early and often. Ryan Tannehill, as usual, will feed off of him, run some play action, run some read option, get the ball to Corey Davis, get it to A.J. Brown, and I think the Titans will win this game. Now, Lamar Jackson is dynamic. Lamar Jackson is one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch, but he has not shown me that he could win these big games, and I want him to prove me wrong. In the worst way, I want him to prove me wrong. But I'm going to say that Lamar Jackson is going to lose his first playoff game in a row. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be a recurring thing, if it's going to happen next year and the year after and the year after, but I think he'll lose his third one in a row. The Titans are going to be able to really establish the run. I don't really think it matters who they're playing against at this point. And, Ryan Tannehill is the perfect supplementary piece. And I just think the Titans are a little bit better if they're on. If they're not, Lamar Jackson is going to have his first playoff win. So we're going to have the Titans to move on to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. So now that we got the AFC out of the way, let's move on over to the NFC. And we got a couple of great games for Wild Card Weekend for the NFC. And the first thing we're going to start off with is the Rams and the Seahawks. Now, the Rams and the Seahawks have played each other twice. They're division rivals again. You got division rivals on the AFC side with the Browns and Steelers, and you've got some more division rivals with the Rams and Seahawks. So I think that the Rams and the Seahawks, they've played 2 games, and they've both been low-scoring games. And I think just because the nature of that, you would lean towards the team with the defense. The Seahawks defense they've been playing so great the second half of the year compared to the first half, which was like atrocious. Jamal Adams has been amazing. Carlos Dunlap being added to the team has been amazing. But they're nowhere in the league of the Rams defense. Now, this, of course, is saying that Jared Goff comes back. This is saying that Jared Goff comes back and is able to really protect himself and just be who he normally is, which sometimes can hurt your team, but sometimes can, he can throw 5 touchdowns and, he's unstoppable. But I think that the Rams, I'm not sure of the spread of this game. I'm not sure who the favorite is, but I think the Rams are going to come in and win this game. Jamal Adams is banged up. He'll probably play. But Jared Goff is banged up and he'll probably play. So Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, I think they're going to show up. I think they're going to look at some of the tape this year when Russell Wilson was limited, like the Giants game, a couple other games. And I think they're going to put together a good game plan because I don't think Russell has scored more than 20 against them so far this year. And I think that's a good recipe for beating someone as explosive as Russell Wilson and a team that's as explosive as the Seahawks offense. It's all about limiting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett over the top. If they're able to do that, which I believe they can because their defense is so talented, and they're able to get after Russell Wilson, which you got Aaron Donald there, then I think that they're going to come out and win this game. So the Rams will advance to the divisional round. So let's check out who they're going to play. We got the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints are really, it seems like they're in the NFC Championship every single year, or they're getting cheated every year. It's been like the last 4 years. They've been deep into the playoffs, and something has happened to pretty much ruin it. Drew Brees has been back, and he hasn't necessarily looked like the Drew Brees that is the Hall of Famer that is, can really carve things up. He hasn't really looked like that to me all year long. But, I mean, he's playing against the Bears. Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles have been battling it out all year. And Mitch Trubisky got his job back. And he put together a couple of solid games. They could not beat the Packers. But other than that, they put together some solid games. And he's starting to look better. Mitch Trubisky is starting to play with more confidence. He's using his receivers, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. They got weapons. Jimmy Graham. They've got weapons all over the place. And I think that the Bears are going to put up a great fight, especially with their defense as well, against the Saints. But I think with Drew Brees, even with the noodle arm, even, with all his shortcomings and coming off the injury, he's going to get the ball to Alvin Kamara. He's going to get it to Michael Thomas, which I'm pretty sure is going to be back this week. And the short passing game is going to be in effect. And then they're going to be able to run the ball to some extent. And I think that that's how they're going to win this game. And don't mention it, their defense is hellacious. Mitch Trubisky is not turnover proof. He's shown that he can turn the ball over and lose his team games. So I would be very worried going into this game if I'm a Bears fan, because the Saints, even with a handicapped Drew Brees, are an explosive offense. And then the Saints defense on top of that are like top 3 in the league, if not number 1 or 2. So I have the Saints winning this game. They'll go on to the divisional round to play against the Los Angeles Rams. And let's see who's going to be playing against the first round by Green Bay Packers with the MVP candidate. I mean, everybody's writing it off, saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to have the MVP. You can have your own debate about that in another video. But we got the Washington football team from the lowly NFC East, the division that everybody said wouldn't do anything in the playoffs. If they made it there, they don't deserve to make it to the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. And as a Giants fan, as an NFC East fan, I kind of want to say that Washington comes in here and wins a wild card game to prove all these teams wrong, because the NFC East is not that bad. And then when you look at the Buccaneers, they had their struggles in the middle of the season against the more really dominant teams in the league. And the dominant defenses with dominant pass rushers in the league, even against the Giants defense when their pass rush was really rolling early on in the season. And they were playing great coverage. The Buccaneers struggled, which is surprising because they have so many weapons that you would think that it would just offset that defense. But they struggled against those dominant teams and those dominant pass rushes. And Washington definitely has a dominant pass rush. I'm not as sure about their secondary, but the pass rush is definitely dominant. Now, that being said, Tom Brady has been on a tear the last couple of weeks of the season. He's been on a tear. He hasn't played the greatest of competition, but nonetheless, he's been on a tear. He's had great games. He's had, I think, 4 or 5 touchdown games multiple times in the last 3 weeks. So Brady is on fire, and this is the playoffs. You're playing against Alex Smith, who's very limited, who might even be more limited than Brady at this point with that injury, and a horrible offensive line. And you're going to have JPP and Shaq Barrett rushing the passer, coming after Alex Smith. And I think at this point, even though Washington is packing the defense, and when I say the defense, I mean the pass rush, and Tom Brady, that is his kryptonite. Even though I want to say that the NFC East is going to come out here and steal the division and prove the world wrong, still a wild card game and prove the world wrong, They're not beating Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It's not happening. Um, this will be a rout, and it'll be to the point to where the pass rush is null and void because the Buccaneers are up by so many points. The Washington football team, I will not blame them. No hate towards their fans. But the way that the Eagles lost that game by putting in Nate Sudfeld, the Washington football team made the playoffs by default, which you can say they did anyway in this porous division. But they got to 7 wins by default because another team basically threw the game. And I don't think Tom Brady is going to like that very much. And Chase Young has some choice words for Tom Brady coming off the field. So expect to see Psycho Tom in my Skip Bayless voice. And they're going to blow Washington off the football field and go into Green Bay to try to do the same thing next week. So now that we handled the NFC wild card round, let's switch back over to the AFC where we have. So now that we've moved on from now that we finished the NFC wild card round, we got the divisional matchups here. We got the Steelers and the Bills. I'll start off here. Back to the AFC. The Steelers and the Bills. Now, months ago, you'd be like, this would be a great matchup. I don't know who's going to win. Steelers, their defense is amazing. Josh Allen is playing out of his mind. Stephon Diggs, blah, 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 everything. But Josh Allen is still playing out of his mind in January. The Steelers defense, not really the same. The Steelers offense, not really the same. And I don't really want to spend much time on this game because I think that this should be a rout. Unless the Steelers defense, flips a switch because they still have some great pieces there. Unless the Steelers as a team, Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson consistently flip a switch, the Bills should win this game outright. They should win this game easily. The Steelers have not been playing good football at all. And the only reason I gave them their win last week is because they were playing the Browns, who are riddled with people who just can't play because of what's going on in 2020. So the Bills will advance to the AFC Championship. And I'm not sure when the last time they made the AFC Championship, but I got them going here. So Bills are in the AFC Championship. Next up, you got the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs. If I'm not mistaken, they played last year, and the Chiefs ended up winning pretty easily, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to be another good game. I see Ryan Tannehill stepping up in the playoffs this time around. Last year, he was completely inept, but I see him stepping up this time. And I see this being a really close game. But listen, whatever value Derrick Henry brings to his team as far as being an MVP guy and carrying the team, at the end of the day, Derrick Henry, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not throwing the ball. If Derrick Henry was a quarterback at his level of play, now this would be a whole different story. But he's a running back, and he comes off the field on third down sometimes. And playing against the Chiefs, that's a mega offense. That's a crazy offense. And I really don't know what brings the Titans over the hump enough to be able to make those next steps to beat these elite offensives consistently. Now, they do have a defense, and Mahomes has struggled this year with putting the ball in places where they shouldn't be and turn the ball over. So for the Tennessee Titans to have a chance at winning this game, they're going to have to catch every single ball because Pat is going to throw. He's going to throw you some balls on the defense. He's going to throw the defense some passes, and they have to be able to catch it though because they're coming so fast. Just like they said about Brett Favre, just like they said about Jay Cutler, the passes are coming so fast with so much velocity that you got to be ready to catch it. So if they catch some of those and they turn them over, they're going to have a shot. If not, even if they catch 2 or 3 interceptions, this Chiefs offense is just too explosive. And I don't think having the dominant running game is enough to keep up with this Chiefs offense. So the Chiefs will be advancing to the AFC Championship to play against Josh Allen and the Bills. That's must-see popcorn TV. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship, two exciting quarterbacks, two MVP candidates, even though I think Mahomes is kind of out of it at this point. And they'll face off in the AFC Championship. So next, I'll head back over to the NFC. And we got the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints, like I said, are in the playoffs every year. And they're deep into the playoffs. And it seems like every year something happens to them that makes them lose. And they lost to the Rams a couple of years ago in a horrible fashion because it was a questionable call. It was definitely pass interference. It wasn't called. And it caused them to lose a game, and it caused them to have a chance at trying to get a Super Bowl. And this is a rematch, this time in the divisional round. And I see the Rams with that dominant defense coming in, because don't forget the Saints have a dominant defense as well. But I just see the Rams outlasting the Saints in a low scoring kind of 13-10, 13-9, that kind of game. And I say 9 because not even because of the 3 field goals, there might be a safety in this game. There's going to be a lot of defense. I'm going to enjoy this game as a defensive fan. But I see the Rams with the star power of Aaron Donald and Ramsey and just the way that they've been playing on defense. I see them being able to limit this Saints offense to just enough points to be able to squeak out a victory and make their way back to the NFC Championship for the first time since they ended up losing the Super Bowl to Tom Brady a couple of years ago. So they'll be back to the NFC Championship. And now let's go down the board. The Packers are coming off of a bye. You all remember what happened when Aaron Rodgers went into Tampa Bay and played the Bucs. He got off to a quick start. And then this is the reason why I think Aaron Rodgers shouldn't win MVP. He was horrible after that quick start. I mean, like one of the worst games I've seen a quarterback play. He really couldn't get anything going. That pass rush was all over him the entire game. And the Bucs, they beat them outright. They beat them like a drum. And that was their worst game of the year by far for the Packers and for Aaron Rodgers. And I think if you have a game like that and the other candidates didn't have a game where it was flat out pitiful, I think you should be disqualified. But that's just me. And then you got the Bucs coming in, playing a tough Washington front, coming in, and they're going to have to deal with Aaron Rodgers and the firepower he has. I think the Bucs secondary has kind of been exposed as the season has gone along, and I think the Bucs offense has actually improved since that Packers game. They have Antonio Brown now. He's actually being used in the system. Gronkowski is actually consistently being used, at least in the red zone. So they've got some more offensive weapons. Their offense is running a lot more crisp because Tom Brady has been implementing some more of his older concepts from his days in New England into this offense. But listen, Aaron Rodgers is coming in with a lot of firepower, and I don't think that he's going to get blown out by this team twice. I think it'll be a shootout. But at the end of the day, if you have a shootout, it's all about who gets the ball last. And we're in the playoffs. It's playoff time. Tom Brady is going to come out on top. Anytime you're talking about it's going to be a tough, shootout, and it's all about who gets it last, Tom Brady's going to find a way. The football gods are going to give Tom Brady an opportunity to get the ball last. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to come down the field and he's going to get it done. It's just that simple. Aaron Rodgers will never beat Tom Brady in any kind of a playoff game. I just don't see that happening. And Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to the NFC Championship so he can play the Rams for the first time in the playoffs since the Super Bowl. And Bill Belichick is somewhere right now, punching the air, upset because Tom Brady is back deep into the playoffs. So now that we're into the championship games, you got the Rams and the Buccaneers, and you got the Chiefs and the Bills. We can slide back over to the AFC. The Bills and the Chiefs are there. It's going to be a really, really highly anticipated game. Two dynamic quarterbacks, two explosive offenses, and it's really just going to be about who can make the less mistakes. Because both of these quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes is amazing, but sometimes Mahomes just airmails the ball by like 15 yards. It just happens. Same thing with Josh Allen. But the throws that they make and the plays they do make far outweigh the plays that they don't. And it's just going to be a show. It's going to be a show. And at this point, when you got teams that are this good going against each other, Kansas City is the better team to me. They've got the better quarterback. They've got the better coach. The Bills coaching staff is very underrated, though. But when you break it down, Kansas City is just a better team. But because of my hunch and me thinking that this is going to happen, the Buffalo Bills will upset the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. You heard it here first. They will upset them in the AFC Championship, and the Buffalo Bills will be in the Super Bowl for the first time, I'm pretty sure, since Jim Kelly. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. But this will be the first time they've been in a Super Bowl since they made it, 4 years in a row. So the Bills will be in the Super Bowl. Let's go over to see who their opponent will be. You got the Los Angeles Rams. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, excuse me. And this should be another defensive kind of game. The Buccaneers can play some defense. Jared Goff has been known to turn the ball over. But I see one key factor in this game, one key matchup. Aaron Donald is going to be playing in this game. And Aaron Donald, a couple of years ago against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, was neutralized. Now, that's partially because of Bill Belichick's preparation. And it's partially because I think Aaron Donald was a little bit too excited. And maybe that moment at that point was a little too big for him. But I think that Aaron Donald against Tom Brady and against the Buccaneers will have a monster game. I think he'll have 2 or 3 sacks. And he'll be in his face harassing Tom Brady all year. And because Tom isn't the kind of mobile quarterback, I think Aaron Donald will be able to almost single-handedly win this game for the Los Angeles Rams. It's just a pass rush. Tom Brady struggled with it all year. And if Jared Goff doesn't mess this up, the Rams should be in the Super Bowl to compete against the Buffalo Bills. We got wild card stuff going on here. We got stuff that goes on this channel that you just don't expect. Who would have predicted at the beginning of the season that the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams will be in the Super Bowl? Well, guess what? I did it right now. So, the Rams and the Bills, the Rams are packing the defense. The Bills have the offense, and they got a decent defense themselves. I think this will be a game in the mid to high 20s. The Rams defense will chase around Josh Allen, but he'll be able to make enough plays with his legs to kind of offset the rest that they bring. And the addition of Stephon Diggs has elevated Josh Allen to such a high level. It's just amazing to watch every week. And then the Rams with Sean McVay, they were counted out last year when they went 9-7, coming off of a Super Bowl hangover. They wanted to say they lost Todd Gurley. People were saying that they were on their way down and the Cardinals would pass them and blah, 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 blah. Sean McVay found himself back into the Super Bowl. So you got the great coach and another great coach over there in Buffalo, McDermott. What an exciting game between two young quarterbacks. Jared Goff he's not that old. He's on his second deal. What an exciting game. But I think at the end of the day, Josh Allen, the guy who's an MVP candidate, will elevate his team and outrun Aaron Donald and Floyd and all of those guys. And I think the Buffalo Bills will win the Super Bowl. You heard it here first, people. I got the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl. Hopefully they don't prove me wrong. You guys want to make a bet. you guys want to fill out a bracket and win some money, just write this down. You're going to win. I know what's going on. I've seen it. It will happen. Bills, Rams, Super Bowl. Bills will win. So if you made it this deep into the video, I'm calling you a D6 squad member. If you're a D6 squad member, you got to hit that subscribe button. You got to turn on that notification bell. And listen, I make all kinds of content for NFL teams. So if you're not a Giants fan, don't worry. I'll cover your team. If I'm not covering your team, let me know. And have a good one.